Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from a throwaway account and says, am I the arsehole for not wanting to live with brother-in-law anymore? My husband, 32 male, and I have been married for 2 years. His dad and stepmom are going through an ugly divorce, so his half-brother, 17 male, has moved in with us to live for a year till he starts college. My husband loves his brother, treats him like a little kid, and is overprotective of him. I find brother-in-law's behaviour obnoxious, and we are having too many arguments over this. He's been with us for only a month and a half, and I can't stand it, and I really don't think I can put up with it for a year. It started off with him making messes and throwing away leftovers. Since I do most of the cooking and cleaning, it was increasing my workload. My husband's list of chores have not increased by his presence, so he was dismissive of my complaints. Since husband wasn't saying anything, I tried telling him to pick up after himself. Brother-in-law retaliated by spanking my butt. But anytime I tell him to do something, he hits my butt hard and laughs. Husband told him to knock it off, but he keeps doing it, and husband treats it as if he's just playing around. No big deal. Not only is it very disrespectful, but it's really painful. After that, he started randomly picking me up and carrying me around. I'm a little over 5 foot and 120 pounds, and he's a tall, stocky guy. I hate it, and husband just thinks he's goofing around and trying to be friends with me. I work from home, and the other day when it was just him and me in the house, he picked me up and ran with me to the bedroom and threw me on the bed. It really scared me, but he just laughed at me and left. Husband thinks I'm being dramatic by being scared by this. I feel like his behaviour is escalating, but my husband tells me to act like the adult and not blow up over a kid's playfulness. I'm anxious every day. I'm seriously thinking of moving out, though it'd be difficult to afford it. Am I the arsehole for telling my husband that I don't feel safe in our home? I'm going to start in the comments with C Dentist, who says, not the arsehole, put your foot down. No, you are still nearly newlyweds and your marriage is important. Have another sterner talk to your husband about how it's impacting you. Ultimately, it's up to you, but if my husband dismissed my feelings and concerns for someone else who isn't his child, it would raise a red flag for me. 17 years old is not a kid in regards to behaviour. This teen is pushing you and laughing that your husband is on his side more than yours. It comes across as juvenile dominance behaviour. Kaleidoscope replies to that and says this. The 17-year-old is likely looking for control and power given his life is in upheaval, and has stumbled across the easiest way, making someone smaller uncomfortable. It starts as bullying and escalates to abusive behaviours, in this case sexual harassment of his sister-in-law. OP, you need to leave. Go stay with your parents, siblings or friends for a while. In all likelihood, your brother-in-law will escalate this behaviour because he's enjoying your escalating discomfort in line with, if I'm uncomfortable and unhappy, she should be too. This likely comes from his own pain and anger and his own lack of control over his life. But your brother-in-law needs therapy, and you're not his punching bag or worse, his pet or toy, which is how you are being treated. Your husband is blind to this behaviour, and frankly sounds the type to blame you if your brother-in-law escalated further and rapes you. Rape is where this type of juvenile dominance behaviour leads when combined with sexual harassment. Your husband is not seeing that his baby brother is neither a baby nor acting like a brother to either you or your husband, and is overly disrespecting both your marriage and human autonomy. Leave OP and possibly reconsider this relationship without sincere apologies and couples therapy. Your husband has failed you. The callous bitch replies to that and says, that is the thing. I've never met a 17-year-old who would think this is okay behaviour. I used to work with 18-year-old college kids for years after being a teenager myself. His behaviour is not normal. This isn't a 7-year-old not understanding that slapping a stranger's butt is inappropriate. This is a grown man physically and sexually assaulting a woman. I'm relieved to see the update that OP is moving out temporarily, which we'll cover in a second. There are only 2 options here. 1, the brother-in-law is absolutely doing this with sinister intentions and she is in danger. 2, the brother-in-law was raised with horrible boundaries and has zero idea what he is doing is terrifying and considered assault. If 2 is really the case, OP is the only person in the family who is protecting brother-in-law by teaching him these boundaries. Far too late. Before he ends up at college with a sexual assault charge because some random woman rightfully doesn't think he's playing around. If Scale says, if we rephrase what is happening to a man living with you and your husband started sexually touching you, has escalated to physically forcing you onto a bed while your husband belittles your feelings of being scared in your own home, a proper response is leave and inform the police. And Mustang says, tell your husband. If he does that again with hitting your butt, you're calling the police and charging him with sexual assault. Tell him you're not joking. If your husband won't back you up on this, maybe marriage wasn't not meant to be. I'm guessing the mess and throwing out the food could be a reaction to being kicked out of his home by his parents. You couldn't get him to see a therapist. Picking you up is unacceptable, and tell husband that if he does that, you're calling the police. That is not dealing with divorce stuff and is trying to intimidate you and show you he doesn't respect you. So OP comes in after the comments and says, thank you so much for the comments and validating me. My husband had me confused and believing that I was overreacting. I'm so relieved to hear from so many people that this is dangerous and bad as I feel. I've packed a bag in my car and some important belongings and documents. I am 29 female for those asked. I forgot to put that in my post. I called and talked to mother-in-law early in the morning. She's always been very nice to me, and at my wedding she told me she thinks of me as her daughter. My mum passed away when I was young and I didn't have any siblings, so that had moved me very much. I was nervous about talking to her because I didn't want to ruin that relationship, but she was so shocked when she heard the details. She said she had talked to my husband and father-in-law and that this was an unacceptable situation and told me to come stay with her till I got it resolved. Brother-in-law is out with his friends till tomorrow for 4th of July, so it gives me some time to have one more detailed discussion with my husband. I'm also going to show him this Reddit post and hopefully his mum's talk and these comments will be a wake-up call. And I got to say, yeah, I felt exactly like those other comments. Like it felt like it was escalating that, first he was smacking you on the ass, which is just totally wrong and sexual assault to begin with. And he starts picking you up and now he's throwing you on the bed and laughing at you. It made me feel really nervous for you in that situation. But OP does come up with an update 3 days later and says, I'm very appreciative of everyone who commented on my last post and gave me encouragement. I won't be able to respond to all, but I appreciate it. I wasn't able to resolve the issue with my husband and I have moved out. I'm trying to come to terms with the fact that this is the end of my marriage. My mother-in-law was on my side and talked to my husband about the situation, but he got more annoyed with me because he saw this as me creating drama between mother-in-law and father-in-law and causing old grievances to rise. I showed him the Reddit post I made in the comments and he accused me of presenting things in a lurid manner to get people on my side. He didn't even read all the discussions, just got enraged and closed the tab. Mother-in-law also talked to father-in-law who came down on brother-in-law about his behaviour. Father-in-law told brother-in-law to leave our house and move in with him. Brother-in-law refused, saying he wants to stay with my husband. My husband came up with a solution that brother-in-law was to stay in his room and I should stay in my bedroom, lock the door and do not get out till he got home from work. This pissed me off more. I had packed the bag and my documents thinking of leaving anyway. Father-in-law talked to me and said that he doesn't like the way we're getting along and brother-in-law will no longer stay with us. But the next day brother-in-law came into the house with a group of his friends. I simply grabbed my laptop and left. I'm so grateful to the people who suggested that I be packed and ready to go. I already had everything in my car and I could leave with what I needed immediately. I'm staying with mother-in-law now. She's flabbergasted by my husband who's told her that he'll never ask a close family member to leave his house. It is clear that my husband doesn't even like me, much less care about me at all. He hasn't spoken to me since I left. I'm trying to figure out what I should do next. I obviously can't stay with mother-in-law for long, especially since I need to start the divorce process. I could move back in with my dad, but he lives in another state and that'll make things hard. I don't have any savings and I am short on money. The majority of my paycheck goes into half of the mortgage and utilities on our house. We have a combined joint account. I've been foolishly spending a lot on decorating the house instead of saving up, and I suppose all that is gone now. I need to figure out my money situation so I can support myself. A comment below that one to which OP responds to says, I'd love to hug you right now. You'll be okay. At least it happened this way and not with possible children in the mix. If you ever wanted to have some eventuality, take care of yourself and try to relax a bit. Focus on yourself, get a lawyer and do what he advises. OP responds saying thank you. Your comment is killing me though. We'd started trying for kids a couple of months ago. The room that brother-in-law has taken over, I'd hand painted it and decorated it so it could be set up as a nursery when the time came. Fuck my life. Opie updates again 3 months later and says, a few of you have been messaging me asking for updates, and for those who still care to know, the update is that my husband and I are getting divorced. We've been separated since I left home at that time. The house has been sold and I got the equity out of it. I got some kitchen appliances and some decor back, but for the most part I lost the money I spent on furnishings, but that's okay. It could have been worse. After my last post I had separated my money out, hired a lawyer and handled utilities so I wouldn't be paying anything. My ex was shocked by my actions. He was waiting to call my bluff and couldn't believe I'd go so far so quickly. He didn't take my leaving seriously because I was staying at his mum's house. We had more arguments. I started realizing that he would never really hear me. He was always so focused on being right and having his way that he could twist reality to fit his needs. Looking back, it was always like that in our relationship, but I was in love and a pushover. We went into marital counseling. I agreed to because mostly I wanted an acknowledgement from him that what went on was messed up, and also because my mother-in-law really pushed me to try and make it work with him. It was all a shit show because he denied a lot of the egregious things and presented the issues as minor things that I was twisting up. He stuck to his viewpoint that brother-in-law was simply goofing around, and I got offended because I haven't had siblings and don't know how they mess around with each other. After a few weeks of counseling, my ex agreed to have brother-in-law move out, but he was acting as if he made this huge sacrifice for me, and I didn't believe it. I'd already checked out of the relationship and knew I couldn't trust him anymore. Mother-in-law was very disappointed that I still wanted a divorce after her son compromised. I'd moved out of mother-in-law's house after a month of staying with her. I stopped contributing to the mortgage payments and got my own apartment. It was a risky thing to do, but I decided I'd take that hit to my credit history for my independence. I bet that had mattered more to him, and that forced his hand into selling the house. It was sold as soon as it got on the market, so that was a huge relief. All my decorating paid off, in that way at least. I stayed in touch with my mother-in-law and heard from her that ex moved into a small apartment and brother-in-law had moved back with father-in-law. I also heard from some mutual friends that he's been telling everyone that a divorce is happening because I was jealous and controlling and tried to separate him from his family, and I was a nagging harpy to his baby brother. He already has a new girlfriend who's more family orientated. I am waiting for the final divorce decree to be signed, and I hope there are no problems or delays there. I know a lot of you wanted me to make a police report about brother-in-law, but I didn't feel safe doing that. I don't have a support system that I can rely on if things go wrong, and I want to walk away from this with minimum harm. A lot of people have chided me for not hitting back, but at no point did I think I could do that and get away without taking a beating. I suppose I'm not a very brave person, but I think I am looking at my chances realistically and doing what I can to keep myself reasonably safe. And I'm just incredibly glad that you did get yourself out of that situation. Like the comments were saying, and I felt myself, it was incredibly scary. And people telling you to hit back and all this kind of thing don't have a clue about the situation you was in. So bullshit. You did what you had to do to keep yourself safe in that situation, and that was priority. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit from Quiet Collection 8476 and says, am I the arsehole for leaving my stepdaughter's birthday party after my husband threw out the cake I made for her? I have been married to my husband Jeff for a year now. He has a daughter 12 with his deceased wife. When I first met Jeff, it was obvious that he was struggling as a single parent. For my stepdaughter's birthday, he'd usually get a cake from the bakery. This has been the case since her mum passed away. I thought I'd bake her a birthday cake for her 12th birthday that was last week as a gesture to show some motherly love and support. Jeff agreed and told me what his daughter's favourite flavours are and what she likes and so on. I baked the cake in the flavour she likes and the icing she likes, but one thing was missing, and that is the blueberries. I couldn't include them because I went to the nearest store and they didn't have them. I was running out of time and couldn't get them, so I ended up just leaving the cake as it is, thinking it wouldn't be a big deal. The party started and Jeff was busy taking care of everything else. He then came into the kitchen and asked to see the cake before bringing it out. I showed it to him and he got so angry when he saw that there were no blueberries on top. He went on and on about how I didn't fully commit to making the cake and that he trusted me to take care of it, and just basically saying that he should have just ordered one from the bakery. We got into an argument and he ended up taking it and throwing it in the trash can. I was stunned as he said, "You know what? Forget it. I'll get one from the bakery." I blew up and screamed at him. He told me to stop, but I went upstairs, got dressed and left. He tried getting me to stay, but I refused and went to my parents. He later called and then texted about how I overreacted and hurt him and my stepdaughter by leaving. Also said that I created the situation by not properly making the birthday cake just cause I didn't put blueberries on top. I refused to respond, but my parents saying he was justified since he must have felt pressured from the stress of making his daughter happy on her birthday. He keeps trying to speak to me, but I don't respond. Am I the arsehole? Did I overreact? And a user says, going against the grain here with an everyone sucks here. Usually gets a specific type of cake his daughter likes from a bakery to make her feel special on her birthday. He offered to make it this year and he specified what she likes. The whole "I was running out of time so I went to the nearest store and they're out of blueberries" is kind of ridiculous. He went to one store. You know you can buy blueberries a day in advance, right? He shouldn't have blown his top and thrown away your cake, but I understand trusting someone with a task they offered and then being upset when they didn't do it to the standard expected. Another commenter says, "Not the arsehole, you went out of your way to research what kind of cake your stepdaughter would want. Put in the effort to bake a cake after agreeing with the dad on you baking the cake and baked a lovely birthday cake. It was just missing one kind of deco because you couldn't source it in time. He went nuclear and threw out your cake. Yeah, I wouldn't have stayed around after that either. It is childish, vindictive, aggressive, and a hurtful way to deal with what he saw as less than a perfect situation. He seems extremely overprotective of his daughter. She's 12 and will probably love this cake even if it didn't have blueberries. Even if she had noticed and said something. She could have been told at the shop and ran out, and at her age, she could have been told that the shop had ran out. And at her age, she should be able to understand that and learn to deal with that kind of disappointment. Are you pushed aside in other parenting situations too? How is your relationship with your stepdaughter? It's only been a year and he already treats you like this. I'd reconsider this marriage." Cold Hammer Forge says, "Not the arsehole. 1. No cake in the history of cakes has been ruined by not having blueberries. 2. I've been around people who would get this anal about blueberries. It's never about the berries. It's about control. 3. Huge red flag. Watch out for how easily he comes unhinged about other little things. If it's always your fault, look up the characteristics of narcissists and see if he fits that bill." Wise Woman replies to that and says this: "Here is the narcissist credo. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it." Wolf Goddess says, "Not the arsehole. He threw away a homemade cake because there were no blueberries on it. And you think you overreacted. Has he had explosive reactions like this in the past? Because that's kind of scary. If he reacts this way over missing blueberries, what happens when something really goes wrong?" Cozy Field says, "Not the arsehole. He seems to have some major red flags that need to be dealt with. Why is he so upset about the blueberries? Could it be that he was triggered and remembered that his wife always made it a specific way, but he always ordered it from the bakery in a specific way? I think if the blueberries were that important, he should have stressed this to you prior so that you could have gone to a different grocery store to source them out. I don't think it's fair to your stepdaughter that she was thrown in the middle of this. How is your relationship with her? Has she made any comments regarding the cake, or was she just upset about the fact that you weren't there? I think your partner could benefit from starting therapy and working through his emotions in a healthier way." And one more comment from CBM who says, "Not the arsehole. Even if blueberries held some really special meaning for your stepdaughter, like they were her mum's favorite or something. 1. He should have expressed this to you beforehand, and 2. Still should have never lost his mind if you couldn't find them. There's something really wrong with your husband if missing blueberries sent him into such a tailspin. If you decide to stay with him and this red flag is so massive that's a big if, I would make therapy mandatory." But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Maybe you have a different opinion on the matter. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. Truly, it's absolutely amazing. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.